rugby for you. We have already put out a conversation with Owen Redden and Rory O'Connor about the Leinster-Munster bonanza this Saturday in front of what will be 82,000 at Croke Park. Tomorrow evening in Vancouver, Ireland take on the USA in the WXV1 competition over in Canada. They obviously stunned everybody, not least New Zealand, in their first match, and then they were beaten by Canada on Sunday. Tomorrow, by the way, is an 8:30 p.m. kickoff Irish time, a far more palatable situation than the other couple of games. So they might get a reasonable audience to tune in, given the success against New Zealand in particular. On the way, Sinéad Kissane in conversation with Aoife Wafer, who's a bit of a superstar. And before that, just to set a bit of context and put some meat in the bone of everything that's been going on, Dave Kelly with us. Dave, hello.
Hey, Joe, good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. So, well, Aoife Wafer's on the way. I guess that's the ostensibly the point of our conversation in the main. We have a superstar here in Aoife Wafer. So for anybody who's about to listen to the interview, why don't we set some context for her?
Yeah, I mean, this is all about journeys, I suppose, individually and collectively. I mean, she's 21, and I was just looking today, she's beaten 12 defenders in the WXV1. And again, if you spoke about the exalted company they're in with, which has been unusual for Ireland in the last few years, apart from the Six Nations. I mean, New Zealand, Canada, now USA. Okay, USA are probably a mid-ranked team, but Canada and New Zealand are the two of the world's leading sides, and she has emerged really as this team superstar, a bit like Dorothy Wall did a few years ago, but when this team was in the doldrums. Whereas now it looks like, with Dorothy Wall still there, that Aoife Wafer has come in to almost augment that, and this is her moment, as it is the team's moment, and the way I love journeys, sporting journeys, Joe, in terms of whether it's teams or individuals. And I mean, she was still in school 3 years ago when this fixture last took place. We were just coming out of, when we were kind of snailly crawling out of a pandemic, and there was a very sparse crowd in the RDS when Ireland played the USA. And that was a strange week. Ireland had just astonishingly failed to qualify for the World Cup. Again, it was COVID time, so a lot of us watched. I covered those games on a laptop via Zoom and via Windows, talking to players and coaches, many of them withholding tears as Ireland slumped to what we thought were unfathomable lows. But then we had an astonishing broadside from the then director of rugby, Anthony Eddy, and then the response from Cliona Maloney, one of Ireland's best players, exiled and actually now repatriated once more, who referred to the comments as slurry, amongst other things. There was the famous letter which was sent to the RFU, belatedly responded to. And I remember Ciara Griffin, a week after the USA game, they actually beat USA, which is quite astonishing given the tumult. And then they beat Japan. Ciara Griffin retired way ahead of her time, ironically, to go back to a career on the farm involving slurry. Lindsay Peat retired at the same time. And but I just remember at that time, the pandemic was over, but I just thought that Irish rugby's disease and the way it treated Irish women's sport, women's rugby, was going to take much longer to solve. Remarkably, 3 years later, we're coming out of it, and arguably it began about a year and a half ago. And quite fittingly, the World Cup draws next week, which again, it's a minority sport, rugby, and so is women's rugby. Not a lot of people will know that. I mean, the draws on the One Show on BBC, for anyone who's interested, I think next Thursday at 7 p.m. And Ireland, in fairness, having already beaten Australia before this window, are in the kind of second tier, so they will not necessarily have, not that it would scare them anymore, obviously, having beaten New Zealand recently and at a World Cup before, but they won't have New Zealand and possibly a strong middle-ranked team. They are now in the middle rank themselves. They're sixth. So that's going to be a huge help at the World Cup in England, which after the false start of 17 here, is really going to be another great window for this team to shine. So that's a lot of context about what's going to happen tomorrow. What has happened these last few weeks, when it just seems that, you know, they have finally got it right, and after the storm, they're coming out into some light.
So I suppose Scott Beeman deserves a fair degree of credit here. Irish, you undoubtedly pulling up their socks, albeit forced to, but pulling up their socks nonetheless. And Scott Beeman was appointed. It was Greg McWilliams' misfortune that he was trying to sort things out during the tumult. But Beeman, he arrived, Dave, as somebody people said, he's a good person to get standards up to a certain level. I'd done it with England, and he's kind of almost a perfect appointment, and in that he will take an underdeveloped structure and system and get it up to kind of international class speed. He's a really good fit for this particular position, and so it's proved. I think he's doing a hell of a job here, Scott Beeman.
Yeah, but again, a lot of that has to do with the functionality or dysfunctionality of the organisation, the culture, the structures that you're working within. I would know a lot of people who would know Greg McWilliams, and he did great work with the Irish women's rugby team before, when there was at that stage historically a loose but slightly open window of commitment to the sport. Sadly, when he returned, it was a basket case, and there wasn't either functionality or even cohesion, as we saw with the whole 7s, 15s discord. So the timing has been very propitious for a very, very good coach who has a good track record in terms of improving teams. As you said, he seems to, from my limited knowledge of him, have a very good kind of open quality to him, in terms of being receptive and having that kind of fine balance of being encouraging and acknowledging the that kind of very discreet, thin balance. It's a delicate balance, regardless of sport, female or male. When a structure, a program, or a team is really on its uppers in terms of confidence, morale, but also inculcating a sense of demanding certain standards, whether they are cultural, time, turning up on time, meetings, etc., but also the actual fundamentals of the sport, of skills, listening to plays, reviewing, previewing, that sort of, what looks on the outside detritus, but they're the fundamental building blocks. And with, largely players who have been beaten down, and regardless of those, young players who, we spoke a lot about, and Sinead has spoken a lot about Aaron King, who's a greenhorn at this level in this sport. So he's done a remarkable job in that sort of sense. But as I say, it helps in any sport, and especially in women's sport, and especially in a women's sport which has, as we know, been not only underfunded. But it's not about funding, it's about recognition and being seen. And that obviously does help, because then everyone is buying into it.
Well, a win over New Zealand and also the US, if they can manage it tomorrow, would, I think, amount to a more than a brilliant WXV1 campaign, far better than anticipated. So we'll see how they go tomorrow. My thanks to Dave Kelly. Dave, thanks a mil, short and sweet.
No problem. But just a couple of slight addendum. I mean, it's a very important, from following the women's team, they used to bring in 4 goalkeepers. It was about commitment. I mean, Katie Whelan, scrum half, flew out for Katie Heffernan this week on Monday for the 3rd game out to Vancouver. You could argue, well, do we really need her? We've got 3 out halves. We can throw one in, a bit like Munster did with Conor Murray. But that's just an element of, it's not about the money, it's about the commitment. And also just a note for Tess Fury, who's playing, she's on the bench for the USA, wonderful woman who actually saved, her family is steeped in New Jersey rugby. She saved a guy's life over there a few years ago. I did a piece with her, but she was here with Railway Union for about 6 or 9 months. So she's going to have a nice time meeting up with a lot of our old Railway teammates. But yeah, here's hoping a lot of people can tune in tomorrow. It's a nice kind of late evening kickoff, and hopefully a few pubs can show it.
Yes, very good. Here is Sinéad Kissane in conversation with Aoife Wafer.
Aoife, thanks for joining me. How are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, not too bad. Bit sore after the weekend, but all good.
Good. I know you did a bit of whale watching after the win over the Black Ferns. What was your downtime like this week?
I suppose we just relaxed and tried to get out and just explore the place. So a couple of girls went over to Grouse, a couple of girls went to the Capilano Bridge, I think it's called, and then a few of us just kind of wandered around town and that kind of thing. So yeah, just exploring Vancouver and seeing what it's all about.
Yeah, and how are the bodies feeling now, Aoife? I mean, it will be your 4th game in 5 weeks, including that game against Australia, obviously. How are you holding up?
Yeah, we're good. There's not too many injuries in camp. Obviously, Tricky picked up an injury last week, and Hef has gone home. But they're our only 2 so far. So yeah, we're very lucky, and I suppose it speaks volumes of the work that the girls are doing throughout the season to be really robust come this time of year.
Yeah, so this season, I mean, it started with that 36-10 win over Australia in Belfast, then that 29-27 win over the Black Ferns in WXV1. You were beaten by Canada 21-8 last weekend, but again showed you can mix it with the world's best, Aoife. I mean, some of us are on the outside looking in, seeing this improvement coming at a faster pace than we expected. Is it coming as a surprise to you?
I don't think so. No. I think we've put in the hard yards behind the scenes, and we've always kind of had that belief that we can mix it with the best in the world. So we wanted to be in WXV1, and thankfully we got that, and we got World Cup qualification as well in the Six Nations. So I suppose from there it was just about kind of focusing on ourselves and making sure that we're ready and right to go against New Zealand and Canada and USA. So yeah, I think we always had that belief that we could turn up and do it. So it was just a matter of doing it and showing everybody else.
Oh, you certainly did show everyone else. I mean, that win over the Black Ferns, you scored 2 tries, got player of the match. You topped the stats on ball carries, ball carry meters, defenders beaten. If rugby did dream days, how is that for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the best in my career so far anyways. Yeah, I was very fortunate to be part of that day, and it's definitely one that I'd say post this competition, I'll have to sit down and actually try to let the feelings sink in. Yeah, it's really special. I've dreamed of doing that since I was a kid, and I definitely didn't dream of all the extras, but yeah, it was pretty cool to even just stand in front of a haka and have them kind of throw out their challenge and us march forward and us accept it and then go on and win the game.
There was a moment when we saw it on the stream that you were down, lying on the ground, and you looked pretty emotional. You seemed to be just taking a moment to yourself. What was going through your mind at that moment? Do you remember?
I think, yeah, it was just utter, just happiness and joy, and nearly just I was so tired after the game, and yeah, it was just so special, to be able to do that with the girls, and yeah, I think that's the first game I've cried at, and
Yeah.
it was just so special. It just shows how much we've come on, from a year ago, 2 years ago, and to be there now beating the Black Ferns and mixing with the best is where we want to be.
Yeah, was that the main cause of kind of the emotion, the progress you've made and how far you've come from, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose it is, and just the whole occasion, I guess, as well. We're playing against Black Ferns. Last time we did that was 2016. I was 12, 13 at that stage, and the only players to have done it was Clee and Nick. So yeah, the last time we bet them, all of my kind of role models and my heroes were playing, and to be able to turn around and do that myself is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you saw this in the build-up, but a few days before the game, one of the New Zealand assistant coaches knew you, but not by name, and they referenced you as the number 608 in the red headgear. And I suppose there was a bit made of that after the game. Then, did you know about that? And were you like, as if I didn't have enough to motivate me going into the game?
I'd heard about it, but like I try not to read about things before games, like, and try to stay off socials a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't think it really affected me too much. Like, I didn't dwell on it or think about it too much. I suppose like they do their type of analysis and whatever that was, they tried to do that, but we just stuck to our own systems and we stuck to what we wanted to do, and it worked out. So yeah.
Yeah, your cover is fairly blown now, Aoife, like, obviously. Like, have you noticed a difference from, let's say, the start of the year with how opponents deal with you? I mean, even in the first, whatever about that, even the first few seconds, you got an almighty double tackle by two players from the Black Ferns. But have you noticed a difference by opponents when you play against them?
Yeah, I suppose I have, like, but I guess like when people try close gaps on me, it means that they're opening gaps for others. So I've no issues with who goes through a gap as long as someone in a green shirt is going through it. So yeah, like if people want to double tackle and throw a gap somewhere else, that's completely fine by me. I'm happy to get smashed if one of the girls gets through a hole. So yeah, like I have noticed it a bit, but it just means that I have to develop and get better quicker as a person. So I have to learn faster, and yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I suppose people can talk about, maybe going into your second season and, how you can do things different. Is that the way your approach will be as more people and players around the world kind of get to know you? Like, do you feel you will have to bring different elements to your game?
I suppose that's the challenge, isn't it? Like, so, like if you stay in the same spot too long, you'll be left behind. So yeah, like I'm always looking at what the next challenge is and how I can get better as a player. Like, and like I'm never really happy with my own game. So yeah, it's that thing of just getting better all the time and wanting to be the best player in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, are you particularly self-critical after a game?
Yeah, I'd be fairly bad. All right. Yeah, yeah. Like I'd see the good moments, but I definitely watch back the kind of moments that I can get better in as well. So then I suppose if that moment comes up again, I can do it right second time round.
And do you find it easy or hard to shake if something happens during a game, like to be able to move on?
Oh yeah, no, I find that grand. In the moment, like it's just a case of next moment. So like pre-game, I have a collage of my Ys, like photos that I have on my lock screen on my phone. And one of the quotes I have is I think it was Paul O'Connell that said, "I was like, just win the moment in front of your face." So it's about just going out and like if something goes bad, just forget about it and move on to the next job, because there's nothing you can do about the past. It's the next moment that counts.
And is that something you would have? Would you do that before every game? Like do up your kind of list of Ys, or is it the same Ys for every game, or do you change it as you go along?
No, it's the same Ys. Like as a group, like we would have sat down and done this pre-Dubai, where we would have chatted through like why do you play rugby? Like what do you want to achieve? Like all of these deeper kind of questions, and like we shared them with the group, and like it made us closer and it made us more connected as a team. And I guess then like it's that thing of when things get hard, like why are you doing it? Like, so yeah, my Ys are very important to me. So yeah, they keep me going in the hard moments.
I assume they're private, Aoife, are they? That you keep to yourself?
Well, like some of them are, like, and then some of them I suppose are like my family, obviously my teammates, that kind of thing. So I suppose it's the people that are in your circle that would inspire me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that feeds into the whole, I mean, it's so easy to see the bonds that's there. And there's a lot of talk about the culture that the likes of Sean, Ryan has brought in, obviously Scott as well. You can really see that in this team, that, that there is a particularly special bond, because maybe that wouldn't have been there perhaps in the past.
Yeah, well, like we've done a lot of hard work, and in fairness to Sean and Scott, like they've been incredible as well, and everybody has bought into it, which is hugely important as well. So yeah, like we strive to be the most connected team in the world, and to do that, like it's about having difficult conversations where other teams might not have them, or it's about just sitting down and be really honest with each other. And we have values that we live by, and yeah, I suppose like it's like at the end of the day, like if we're the most connected team off the field, then we can be it on the field. So yeah.
Yeah, and you have that buddy system. And I spoke with Erin King last week, and one thing she spoke about, and I know it's kind of prevalent in the men's squad as well, is about being vulnerable. And what's that like? Having that vulnerability there. Maybe if you want to describe an example of how that's prevalent in the squad, Aoife.
Yeah, it's really important. Like I suppose like if you're vulnerable and you let people in and that kind of thing, then like you're always like the girls are always going to have your back, and no matter what happens on the pitch or off the pitch, like it's just another family that you can turn around to on hard days or good days. So yeah, like it's incredibly important. But I suppose like an example would probably be just having those difficult conversations that you probably would normally shy away from, just having it out in the open air and just discussing it and finding a solution that suits everybody. Like, so it's putting the team first. Like at the end of the day, it's that kind of mentality of like you'd do anything for the team before yourself, like, because at the end of the day, that's the more important thing.
And who's your buddy in the buddy system?
Emily Murphy-Crowe. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, sorry, you mentioned that before. Yeah, and you obviously played sevens before, so you would have known her from that. So, what's that been like, and how's that helped you?
Oh, it's been class. Like obviously as a kid growing up, like she was a big role model for me. Because like she's been smashing it on the seven scene for years. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like and she's been there for me since the start. Like, and even pre her coming into the 15s camp, like she was always kind of very supportive of me. And yeah, when the list got put up of our buddies, I was delighted to see her name beside mine. So yeah, she's incredible. And she's come back into the 15 squad and added so much to our team. So yeah, like we're hugely grateful to have her back.
Yeah, and it just reminds me of, was it the second try you scored against Australia, and herself and Stacey Flood were involved in the build-up, and it was a smashing move.
Yeah, no, that was a really cool one to be involved in. But yeah, I suppose they made the try and I just kind of finished it. So yeah, no, like the two of them have been class for us, and a number of other players. So yeah, it's really good to have everyone.
Yeah. Come here, it has been an incredibly wild year for you. I mean, you turned 21 a few days after you made your first start for Ireland on your third cap against France in March this year. I remember chatting to you after the game, and, you know, you were named player of the round a few times in the 24 Six Nations. You were shortlisted for player of the championship. And what was your first full season playing? You were named Rugby Players Ireland player of the year. You know, you scored 2 tries and get player of the match against Australia. You scored 2 tries and get player of the match against the Black Ferns. How are you processing all this happening so fast, so soon?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of it has sunk in, to be honest. I'm just kind of enjoying my rugby at the minute. And yeah, like I said it to, I think it was TG Carr post Australia game, and like I was always kind of brought up on, like, if you're just having a bit of crack playing rugby, then you're going to produce your best rugby. So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the minute. And I suppose maybe another day when we get a bit of downtime, it'll probably all hit me. But yeah, for the minute, I'm just loving every minute and just looking at the next matches as they come.
Yeah, is there kind of that no fear? I mean, during the summer, let's say, you know, I would have spoken a lot about Rashida Adeleke, you know, also a 21-year-old, and you're always so cognizant of the age. And, you know, you've had setbacks in your career, Aoife, you know, after you made your first cap, and it took another 18 months for you to get your second cap because you ruptured your hamstring, you know, a week after you made your Ireland debut in Cork in 2022. What was that time like for you back then, and how much has that formed you as a player in terms of your outlook and your attitude, that setback with that time out after making your debut?
Yeah, it was really tough. Like, I suppose when you go from one of your career highs to one of your career lows in the space of a few days, it's fairly tough one to go through. But like I was very lucky that I had a good support system around me and my family and some of the girls and the staff. So for them to pull me through some really dark holes was everything to me, like looking back on it. And yeah, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without them, because like there were definitely days where it just didn't go right, or days where like you'd question if you were doing the right thing in life in terms of rugby, and whether you'd even get back in a green jersey. Like was it worth it, going to be like rehabbing for all this time? Was it going to be worth it in the end? But thankfully it's all worked out. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have my support system around me.
And does that make you appreciate what you're doing now all the more, do you feel?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like as bad as it was at the time, like obviously getting an injury and being out for so long, I think coming back in, it just made me appreciate every moment that little bit more, because like I went so long without playing any sports. And I guess when you grow up playing sports, and like you're like, since I was younger, I had some sort of training session every day, or I'd be out in the back garden running around with my siblings. So I guess when that's kind of taken away from you, it's a very tough one. So when I was brought back in, like I was so grateful, and yeah, it definitely makes you appreciate every moment, every bit more.
So was it a case of you just felt really lost, like that you didn't have your rugby at that time? Was that it?
Oh yeah, like I went through a phase of like not knowing who I was without rugby, like, or without sport, like, because like that was my everything. Like that's who I was. I was Aoife Wafer, the rugby player. Like that's how I felt my college friends, that's how they know me, because sure, I try to get to the few lectures, but if I miss any, it's because I'm playing rugby. So like having that kind of stripped is something that you have to try find yourself again in. And yeah, it was definitely a lengthy process, but I guess it just made me realize that there's more to life as well. Like rugby is fantastic, and we're all extremely lucky to be here playing for Ireland, but there's also more in terms of like if I wanted hobbies, or like if I wanted to go out and see friends or that kind of thing, like I needed to have a break from it. And I guess then coming back into the sport, and let's say even being out here in Vancouver, like having those off days that I'm not obsessed with rugby, and like I go and like I bring my tin whistle everywhere now, and I have a few tunes there. So it's about finding those outlets and just pockets of time in the day that you don't think about rugby, because if you're obsessed with it that much, then it's going to crack you eventually.
Yeah, I suppose that is the lesson about obsession. And considering you were so young, though, at the time back then, I suppose that is the downside of being obsessed about something, Aoife, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. Like, to be fair, like I'm still very obsessed with rugby. Like the girls will probably tell you as well that like I eat, sleep, read rugby. Like, and like it's very hard. I find it very hard to find those pockets in the day, but like it just has to be done, because like I have to look after myself as well. And yeah, like I think if I don't find those pockets to play a bit of music or listen to music or go out for a walk, then yeah, I won't be as happy playing rugby.
Oh, and do you work with a psychologist, a sports psychologist?
Yeah, and they've helped massively. So yeah, to be able to kind of get some tips and tricks in that kind of aspect is very helpful.
Yeah. I suppose looking at we spoke about like the general improvements in this team, and a number of factors, mentioned Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe there, the sevens players coming back in, Alex Codling coming in, Hugh Hogan, new coaching team, a bigger training panel. I know that was referenced that you were able to play those 15 on games. If you could pin a reason why this team has accelerated this fast and has made those improvements, what would you put it down to, Aoife?
I mean, it's probably all of them, and then like we pride ourselves on having the compete element in training. So like we had a session there yesterday, and we were focused on different things, and Hugh might just throw in a random ball, and all of a sudden now you've a game, and it's who can get the ball first. So like you have bodies diving on the ball, like trying to win it first, or like before certain training sessions, we might have a game of netball, and we do tallies versus smallies and see who wins. Like we make a competition out of absolutely everything. So I'd say that's probably something as well. So when it comes to a game, like we're hungry to win, and we're hungry to win every moment in that game.
Yeah, and you're probably like the kind of first generation of, Ireland rugby player who played rugby since you were a kid. Like you were whatever 6, and you captained underage teams as well. I think I've written about it before. I see you as a future Ireland captain, but God, let's not put any pressure on you at the same time as what I'm thinking. Like, what are you like in the dressing room, Aoife? Are you a big talker? What are you like?
Pre-game, like?
Yeah.
I guess it depends. Like pre-game, if we're like, let's say going to Langley, it was a hour bus ride. Like I'd have a little nap on the bus, and then I'd wake up and throw a bit more music on. But yeah, pre-game, it's probably just that thing of like I get ready, I listen to a bit of music, and whatever conversations I need to have, I have them. And then yeah, we all go back out for a pitch walk, and we come back in, and it's nearly go time then to go out and warm up. So yeah, like I guess we've so many leaders in the team, so sometimes you actually don't need to talk. Like it's just a matter of acknowledging the challenge that's ahead, and going and fighting for it.
And everybody has their own routine of how they mentally prepare themselves for a game. What would you do? Like, how would you mentally prepare yourself for what is to come?
Like I suppose I just go and like I listen to my music. So like in the morning I kind of listen to a bit kind of chiller music. So that kind of slower music, and just have a nice morning, I suppose. And
Yeah.
and then
Do you get nervous?
sometimes, but like I suppose nerves just mean that it matters. So yeah, like I don't get too nervous. I just go out and try play, like. So yeah, I guess like music is probably a massive part of my routine. So yeah, that's probably what I stick to.
I know you told us last month about how you kind of turned down offers from English clubs to play club rugby in the Premiership Women's Rugby for the upcoming season. Dorothy Wall will head over to Exeter Chiefs now for the season. Is that something that you would, look at down the line to help in your progression as a rugby player?
Yeah, like I guess like I'd be silly not to look at it, to be honest, at the minute, because like the Prem is just like it's full of exceptional talent. Like you've people, the best people from every different country, whether that be Scotland, England, Wales, USA, Canada, Australia. Like there's everyone there, and like to be able to play against the best is obviously something that you learn huge amounts from. But if I was to train every day with the best, then hopefully I'd learn a lot more as well. So yeah, it's something that I definitely think about in the future. But yeah, I think for right now, I just try to get another year of college done, and just learn everything I can from the new coaches and everyone here.
Yeah. Is it one more year of physio you've got in UCD, is it?
I'm in third year now, so
Third year.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great stuff. Well, look, I mean, obviously the World Cup is coming up. We will have the Six Nations before that. But this weekend, obviously, the final game of the WXV1 against the USA, 8:30 p.m. Irish time on Friday evening. You can watch it on Rugby Pass TV. I'm delighted it's at a more convenient time for us watching it from Ireland, Aoife. But talk to me about the importance of this game. You got that win over the Black Ferns. I don't think many people saw that coming. But how important is this to get that win against USA to just frank again the progress that you've been making this last month or so in particular?
Yeah, it's huge. Like we all want to win the game. But I suppose like at the end of the day, again, we just have to focus on ourselves, and we know that if we get our processes right and our systems right, that like the result will come. So it's just a matter of going out and doing it then. But yeah, I suppose like it'll be huge for us to just come out of WXV1 with 2 from 3 wins, and like we know that like maybe on a different day we could have had a closer score with Canada or even bet them. So yeah, we're taking confidence from that as well, and then obviously the New Zealand win. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting one, I think.
Tell me what goes through your mind. Like, obviously, for Emer Considine try against Canada, kind of started with you off the basis going, what goes through your mind when you're making those runs? Because I'm sure the opposition are going, oh, it's coming. So what are you, because it's one of the best sides in rugby these days, I've seen you do that.
I don't even know. Like, I think my mind kind of just goes blank and I just pick up the ball and run, like, it's nearly just that thing of like, I want to beat my opposite number and I want to beat the people that are in front of me. So if there's one person, great, like I'll try beat them. If there's four, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but like I'm still going to fight. So like if the girls give me an opportunity to run with the ball and it's into a brick wall, like I'll still say yes. So yeah, I guess it's just win every inch for the person beside me.
Listen, it's been an incredible season, incredible year. Finally, when you get home next week, what is that little reward you'll give yourself for having just a tremendous year?
God, I'll probably have to, like, I'll be back home in Wexford, so
yeah,
I guess like I'll definitely probably have to go for coffee with my mom or my dad, and I'll probably go book cafe or Hungry Bear or something like that, get a bit of pancakes and all of that crack. So yeah,
nice.
Definitely a little treat there.
Okay, well, enjoy the pancakes and best of luck in the game on Friday. Aoife Wafer, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
And there we are, the brilliant Aoife Wafer, who is, performing so well, and you consider the injury which took her out for a season as well. Talk about back with the bank. So she will be to the fore for Ireland tomorrow night against the USA again. Kick-off time, 8:30 local time, Irish time in Vancouver, Ireland against the US, if you're looking for that game. Generally available online if you go searching for it.